welcome back to Let's Talk Physical Media. My name is John. Faith will be with me in a little while for the Q&A portion of this week's show, but every single week we like to start this show off with the news, and just this past Monday, Criterion announced their July 2024 releases, and the big one that stood out to me was 1983's Risky Business. Tom Cruise is one of my favorite actors of all time. One thing when we started this channel was a lot of people used to say we were just big fanboys for Tom Cruise, and that's pretty much true. I absolutely love Tom Cruise. I think he's one of the greatest actors of all time. Now, as far as acting, you can make an argument he's not one of the greatest of all time, but his commitment to the industry is something that has to be marveled at, and I just always seem to enjoy his movies, and Risky Business is no different. It's one of the most famous films from the 1980s. Obviously, it's most famous for that one scene where he's dancing in his underwear listening to Bob Seger.
Just take those old records off the shelf. I said listen to them back.
And I gotta admit, the song is fantastic, and the scene is fantastic as well, and I'm really looking forward to this Criterion release, and this is one of the more popular releases from the Criterion Collection. I actually saw an argument on the artist formerly known as Twitter, which, you know, that's no surprise, it's Twitter, people always argue on there, but they were talking about how the Criterion Collection doesn't have that many good films, and, you know, I can see their perspective. I don't agree with it, but I can see their perspective in the sense that, you know, there aren't a lot of mainstream films released by the Criterion Collection. Their most famous films that have ever been released are probably Armageddon and The Rock, but they don't even acknowledge that. That's like the redheaded stepchild of the Criterion Collection. You know, now it's probably Wall-E. That's why when they teamed up with Disney a couple years ago to release Wall-E, that was a huge deal. But other than that, there's not too many really popular films that have been released by the Criterion Collection that the more common film fan would like. But, you know, people who are cinephiles and they want to see those deep cuts or foreign films, that's what the Criterion Collection is huge for, them and Kino Lorber. And we have a Kino Lorber question this week we're going to talk about. But the big thing is with the Criterion Collection, they keep those small indie films alive, and then they, of course, bring it to you in the highest format possible. Like, their 4K transfers are some of the best. The only thing I can feel like they're lacking in it is their audio transfers. I don't feel like they're put as much heart into the audio as they do into the visuals. I mean, the extras have always been good from the Criterion Collection, and I could also see the argument that they don't put as much effort into that as they used to, but really nobody is. It's not like it used to be in general. Studio releases pretty much never get any new extras on there. It's always just previously released extras that they just keep porting over from pretty much the DVD days. So Criterion, I at least appreciate that they are still at least giving us new extras, even though we don't get as many as we used to. But Risky Business is going to be one that's going to stand out in the crowd if you're a fan of Criterion, and a lot of people who might not be that interested in Criterion are probably going to pick up Risky Business because, like I said, it is one of the most popular films of the 1980s, and it stars Tom Cruise, and that scene is always showing up in so many different montages. It's just that popular. So I'm very much looking forward to that, and that was the one that really stood out to me. But the rest of what we got was Farewell My Concubine, Black God, White Devil.
He said, "Let me guess. White Devil, White Devil?"
Yes, you speak what you do.
Last Samurai. This is a Jean-Pierre Melville film. Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, and one that stood out to me that I still haven't seen, but I'm very excited because I love the director, and that's Perfect Days. That one is directed by Wim Wenders, who directed one of my top 5 favorite films of all time, In Paris, Texas, and I've actually been re-watching a lot of his movies recently. I just watched The American Friend the other night, and it's really funny because, you know, that show Ripley that's on Netflix right now, the first time I believe Tom Ripley was ever in film, that character, you know, he's obviously played by Matt Damon in The Talented Mr. Ripley. It's the same character based on novels, and in this one, it's played by Dennis Hopper in The American Friend, and the movie is fantastic. It's a great noir film. If you've never seen The American Friend, that's got a Criterion Collection release, and Perfect Days came out last year. It had critical acclaim. It probably wasn't that popular. I still haven't seen it, honestly, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it, and I'm going to grab this Criterion release. So really, the big standout was Risky Business, but I'm really excited for that, and I'm really excited for Perfect Days. And if anyone else knows any of these other 4 films in there and can highly recommend them, let me know in the comment section below, because I haven't seen the other 4, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, but I'm really excited anyway because I always get good recommendations. So let me know what you think of the July Criterion releases. And the other news we got this week, and I just got this news right before we started recording, Lionel Jacobs reached out to me. Now, this was just a rumor last night, but actually Target confirmed this to IGN. They are going to be phasing out physical media in stores by about 2025. This is not a Best Buy situation. Target isn't getting out of the physical media game. They're just going to be online only, from what I'm understanding. And that's completely understandable. I mean, they didn't really have the biggest physical media collection collection ever anyway. Like, actually, my local Target is right next to the Best Buy, so I would always go in the Best Buy and then sometimes pop in the Target to see if just in case they had it at a lower price. And they would only really carry new releases, and that was really it, at least at my local Target. I don't know if other Targets had bigger physical media sections, but in my local Target, it was really just 2 aisles and an end cap, and that was really it. Just like what Walmart really still is, at least in my local area. I have seen that they've upgraded other Walmarts to better physical media collections, which is awesome. We want to have at least one brick and mortar store that we can all walk into. It sounds like Barnes & Noble is going to be that store, which is awesome because they also have 2 great Criterion sales each and every year, so you know they support physical media, and they support a great boutique label like the Criterion Collection, so that is awesome. They also have a good Arrow video sale every year, but it does sound like Target is not going to be one of those brick and mortar stores that you can walk into. Now, for me personally, like I was just saying, I never really relied on Target for physical media anyway. I still haven't bought anything from them personally. Best Buy was definitely more of a hit to me. I know some people are definitely going to be disappointed by this, but you will still have the online store. It's not like Target is not going to be an option for selling physical media. I have heard from other people that they've had good experiences with them. I can't say if I have or have not personally because I haven't used them yet, so I don't really know how they are. The only thing I've ever actually bought from Target online was an Xbox Series X years ago, and I had no issue with it, so I don't have any complaints personally, but, you know, this is a little bit disappointing. I don't know how many people are going to Target anyway to buy physical media in store. If you guys are, let me know in the comment section, because I'm not 100% sure that many people are actually doing that, but I know some people definitely will be disappointed by this news, but it's not as big of a heartbreak as it was with Best Buy. And then the other little bits of news that we got announced this week is that Paramount is going to be releasing a 30th anniversary 4K steelbook for Forrest Gump, and they didn't say if it's going to be an upgrade to the visuals or not. Now, I haven't reviewed Forrest Gump here on the channel, but I am actually pretty disappointed with it. I think it's a very dark looking 4K Blu-ray, and I would like them to brighten it up, and I was hoping maybe now that they were going to announce that they are, you know, maybe bringing us a new scan or at least updating the HDR Dolby Vision. I don't even remember if the original one had Dolby Vision or not. It might have just been HDR, but maybe they give us a Dolby Vision release, kind of like what Sony has done with such films as Bram Stoker's Dracula, but this is a Paramount release, and Paramount, you know, sometimes they could be a little bit lazy, and I don't want to accuse them of that now because they have actually been on a pretty good roll as of lately with Major League on 4K Blu-ray, although they did kind of swing and a miss with Footloose there. But, you know, Paramount, I wouldn't put it past them to not do anything with this and just really give us new packaging, which does look pretty nice, but there's no reason to pick this up if you already have the previous 4K release, unless they are going to upgrade it, which we have no news on that yet. And we might not get any. Who knows? Look out on Blu-ray.com for that one. And then they also announced, and this is from Sony under Columbia Pictures, that Taxi Driver will be finally getting a solo 4K Blu-ray release. This was previously released in the Columbia Pictures Collection Volume 2. It hadn't gotten a solo release yet, and this is one that really surprised me. Didn't get a solo release sooner because Taxi Driver is one of Martin Scorsese's most famous films, and it's one of the most famous quotes ever by Robert De Niro in this movie, and it's probably one of the most famous films of the 1970s. It's written by Paul Schrader, and if that 4K Blu-ray is out there, I actually reviewed this here on the channel if you want to get my full thoughts on the 4K Blu-ray. Let's just say it's a really good one. It's finally nice that it's going to get its own solo release, so people who don't have the Columbia Classics Volume 2 aren't locked out of getting this great 4K Blu-ray. I can really appreciate that, so I'm very happy that we're going to be finally getting that for those people. And that's really it as far as the news goes, so I'm going to kick this over to me and Faith, and we'll get right into the Q&A portion of this week's show. Hey guys, found Faith, and she's here for the Q&A portion of this week's show, but before we get into that, one thing that came across my imaginary desk before we started recording today is that Shrek 1, 2, 3, and 4 is going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray. I personally only really like Shrek 1 and 2, but the third one's okay. What about you?
1 and 2.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, 1 and 2.
Those were classics of the time, but the other two were...
What does he say? Like, he's wearing a thong. It's a thong! He falls it up.
I also like, I think it was in 2 where they had like the fake Bronco chase, R.I.P. OJ.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's funny.
So, yeah.
Do you know the Muffin Man?
The one who lives on Jerry Lane? There's another movie that just beat the hell out of fucking All-Star by Smash.
Oh, yeah.
The years start coming and they don't stop coming. Fed to the rules and I hit the ground running.
That was, if you were around from 2000 to like 2002, my God, 99 to like 02, the amount of movies that used All-Star were insane. It's a classic song. I mean, that was one of my first CDs, Astro Lounge.
Mm-hmm. You always bring that out.
Yeah, got stolen along with all my other CDs out of my car. Very sad day. So, you ready to get into the Q&A? We have two
I'm
questions.
back, guys.
I'm back!
I'm back, baby dolls.
You're sick. This one's from Rico Gomez, and he said, what would be the first family movie that you can't wait to all watch when you both have a child at 6 years old? Well, fun fact about Faith and I, we are not going to be having children, so...
The way you said it. Fun fact.
Yeah, because we have nothing against people who have kids, but us personally, we just don't have enough time, and we don't feel like we should have a child if we can't give all of our effort to having a child. So there would be just, if you're going to bring a child in the world, you want to make sure that you're going to have absolutely, they're going to be number one. And I don't know if we can do that, so.
Yeah, it's not something that we actually slammed the door on yet.
No, it's not slammed. It's cracked open.
It's cracked a little bit, but right now, and I'm getting up there in age, so... it's usually now or never, so if it's not now, then it's probably going to be never, so.
So, yeah, but to answer your question, if we did have a child, obviously, at 6 years old, that was around the time I first saw it, I'm going to show him the Terminator, so.
Oh, my God. The Mask.
The Mask, I actually saw for the first time when I was 4 years old. I remember getting it on my 4th birthday. My dad gave it to me as a birthday gift. He literally gave me the Mask VHS on my 4th birthday, and I specifically remember it.
That's when it started, huh?
What, Jim Carrey?
No, your movie you love.
Oh, I was a movie person from a very young age.
But like you're collecting and...
yeah, I had VHS. Well, my mom liked movies. So if my dad bought movies, my mom would watch them. Like, I remember in the same house where I got The Mask on VHS, I remember me and my mom watching Batman Forever, too, in the same room. Like, with my brother Ryan, and he was just born. Like, it was just the three of us watching Batman Forever in that same room. So yeah, Jim Carrey has been a part of my life that long. That's why I absolutely love the guy. So it's just, been ingrained in me from the very beginning. That's where that came from. So what would you want to show our unborn fake child?
Well, Clueless, obviously. That's my classic go-to.
Just show them what the 90s was like?
Yeah. So that's what I think I would do, Clueless.
So, that's fair enough.
And The Mask, because I really like that movie. And for some reason, that movie, and Liar Liar brings out my childhood.
Liar, Liar. That would be the 4th best Jim Carrey movie. I think his 3 best all came out in that 1994 year with, Ace Ventura, The Mask, and then, of course, at the end of the year, Dumb and Dumber. And then 95, he had When Nature's Calls, Batman Forever.
Yeah, but those, stand out to my childhood. Because I remember having The Mask on VHS.
Mask is great. Edge City.
Yeah, so. But Clueless is my favorite movie, so it has to be
You
Clueless.
have to show them Clueless. But hey, at least, The Mask really isn't a kid's movie, but it's funny how we saw it as kids and we absolutely loved it. So that was a great question, Rico. Thank you so much, buddy. And this question is from Tony, the Lone Rider Smith. And he wrote, what's yours and Faith's
Wait,
What?
why'd you say it like that?
Because
Tony, the Lone Rider Smith.
if you're going to have a cool name like that, I'm going to say it cool.
Oh, my God.
So what's your and Faith's top 10 characters from film and television in no particular order? 5 for TV and 5 for film. For TV, he got his list. You got Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell, Pacey Witter from Dawson's Creek, Data from Star Trek, TNG John Reese from Person of Interest, and Nathan Ford from Leverage. Top 5 for film are Luke Skywalker from Star Wars, Wolverine from X-Men, Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th, Freddy Krueger from Elm Street, and Darth Vader, also from Star Wars, which are all great characters. So for TV, I think my favorite character of all time... Wow, this is really tough, but I'm going to probably... God, I don't know. My favorite character? Obviously, I guess he said no particular order, so, Walter White from Breaking Bad's an all-time classic.
That's a good one. He's on my list.
Omar from The Wire.
That was the mic. Why are you saying Omar?
Well, we have very similar tastes in stuff, so... honestly, I could pick a lot. From The Sopranos, I'd probably pick Tony. You have to pick, all the big guys, right? But The Sopranos had so many great supporting actors as well. I loved Chris Maltasante's character.
Yeah.
That was a great one. So, there's a lot of great, and obviously if you go into comedies, you have some of the best. The whole entire cast of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's so hard to pick a favorite character.
My favorite is, I can't pick a favorite.
From Always Sunny, right?
I'm leaning towards Rob McElhenney.
Mac?
Mac. I feel like he just brings something totally different than everybody else.
We've rewatched the show so many times, and I feel like I will always pick a character to watch through the seasons.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, they all serve a purpose.
Dennis is very funny.
He's hysterical.
He's fucking hysterical. But they're all funny in their own.
They all serve a purpose.
They all say yes, exactly.
It's the perfect ensemble. So to pick an actual favorite character is really hard.
Yeah, but I'm gonna have to say it's Mac. But so I have Marshall Erickson.
You were gonna pick Marshall. See, I have a character from How I Met Your Mother, and it was actually
Barney.
It was Barney. Yeah, I mean,
Marshall
how can it not be
Erickson
Neil Patrick Harris?
Is hilarious. Omar. I had Walter White. Franklin Saint.
Oh yeah, you do love that show.
Dwayne Wayne from It's a Different World.
Had to pick a different world. You know, what great one for me is one of my favorite shows ever is Rescue Me. I'm going to go with Dennis Leary's character of Tommy Gavin on that one. So I always love that show, and that's one of the best shows ever. You know, Breaking Bad had a good first couple of seasons, and Michael was a pretty cool character.
Michael was a good character, and so was
Lincoln? Oh, Teabag. Remember Teabag? Oh, he stole that show.
Yeah, there's a lot of good characters.
Theodore Bagwell.
Franklin Saint. I mean, I love it. I love him, and then I love the uncle too from Snowfall.
Oh, yeah, the uncle was great.
The uncle from Snowfall.
He
and
was
if you
awesome.
ever hear him talk,
his real voice, my God,
it's like very proper.
Yeah, well,
but there was like so. On this, I don't know if you guys ever seen Snowfall, but there's a scene where Franklin's friend's dad is like a porn star, not porn star, but he's a director. So, you know, his uncle thought they were going to go there and see like porno and like, you know, girls. And then he walks in, it's like gay porn. And he's like, where's the bitches at? There's supposed to be bitches here.
He's like so upset. That's what he
upset.
That's what he went there for. Yeah, no, I mean, listen.
I love it.
I mean, the topic for another day, but a lot of people, I've realized, do get upset that they don't cast the right actors for the roles because, like, certain actors are not American, playing American roles. Like, people were actually upset. I was talking to somebody at work today that they were upset that Bob Marley wasn't played by a Jamaican person. But,
a lot of people, a lot of Jamaican people were upset about that. I don't see any problem with it. You have English people playing civil rights leaders, so it's like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, you know what?
It is what it is.
I mean, that debate will always rage on. You know, just get the best actor to play each role. And if it happens to be a British person playing an American role, so be it. I mean, that's the way it goes sometimes. I mean, like, they're the best actor out there, then you give it to them. I mean, that's how it goes. How many different times have we seen Ewan McGregor play different roles? I mean, the guy's just got great range.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Now, as far as movies go, you know, I'm going to have to pick. I'm wearing it on my shirt. We're going to go with the T-800 played by Arnold Schwarzenegger in both Terminator and Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. So, in both movies, he plays the T-800. Different models, both Cyberdyne Systems Model 101, but he was reprogrammed for Terminator 2 to protect John Connor, while in the first movie, he was programmed to kill Sarah Connor before John Connor could be born. And Arnold Schwarzenegger plays the character phenomenal in both movies. So that's obviously my favorite. But then there's a bunch of other ones. Indiana Jones is one of my favorite ones.
I was going to say Han Solo.
You were going to say Han Solo? So Harrison Ford. So that's your favorite Harrison Ford character. Mm-hmm. See,
I think he's witty, smart. I like him. I like Chewie too, but he doesn't have any words.
But he understands him.
But that's what makes it so funny. Like the one scene where he's like,
The Force Awakens.
The Force
I know
Awakens.
exactly. Because we laughed at that in the theaters. Oh, you're cold?
Oh, really? You're cold? Come on.
And like when she's like, "Oh, you were brave." He's like, "Yeah."
Yeah. He's like, oh.
Like, you know what he's trying to say. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
That was actually Carrie Fisher's daughter, who was a R.I.P., who was the one talking to him like that.
I love that. It's funny.
But my favorite Harrison Ford role is obviously Indiana Jones, because he's always come back. That's my favorite one, even though that's not my favorite Harrison Ford performance, because my favorite one is as Dr. Richard Kimball in The Fugitive. But that's not my favorite. If you want another favorite movie character, Sam Gerard from The Fugitive is one of my favorite movie characters of all time. Love it. I think he's phenomenal as that role. And then obviously, I guess it's not technically a movie character because it's based on a real person, and that's Malcolm X. Denzel, I just think that performance is phenomenal.
Yeah, well, Malcolm X, yeah.
Yeah, but that's kind of cheating because that's not a made-up character, so I can't go with that.
You know what's so funny is that you really love that movie, like you really love Malcolm X, but you don't really bring up Judas and the Black Messiah. I think that was such a great role that he played, and
Denzel Washington doesn't play Judas.
No, not Denzel.
Daniel Kaluuya.
Daniel Kaluuya.
And Lakeith Stanfield.
But you never bring that movie up.
because I think that movie, as good as it is a little bit flawed. As much as I love the performances in that
Why?
movie, I think that movie does have some pacing issues, and it also suffers from some certain cinematography issues that a lot of modern films suffer from. You know, the two performances, or one Daniel Kaluuya Academy Award, a well-deserved. Lakeith Stanfield is probably my favorite working actor today, and they were great in the movie. I just think that the movie itself does have some flaws. I do really love that movie, but I mean, are you going to compare Judas and the Black Messiah to Malcolm X? They're not in the same ballpark.
But I'm saying like the stories.
Yes, I mean, they're dealing with similar issues, but that doesn't mean, I mean, there's a ton of movies that deal with the same
No,
issues.
but you said character, so like,
yeah, well, those are
Denzel's not a character.
That's what I mean. That doesn't count. I can't count that because, I mean, if you were to count a great Denzel Washington character, I would definitely pick Whitaker from Flight. I think that's awesome. I love seeing Denzel play against type, and him playing a really struggling alcoholic. That's I mean, honestly, floating that gray area, because I love Flight. If you guys have never seen Flight and you've like written Robert Zemeckis off, definitely check out Flight. That movie, it's almost a masterpiece. I love that movie. So, you have any other characters you want to mention? I mean, Darth Vader is obviously one of the greatest movie characters.
I like Darth Vader, but he's not my favorite. I like funny. I like people. I like things that make
Ace
me
Ventura.
laugh,
Ace Ventura is one of my favorite movie characters of all time. I mean, The Walk
You know
alone.
who I really like? I like Ethan Hunt's character.
Oh, and the Mission Impossible movies? Yeah.
Obviously I like the John Wick character as well, but, he's a man of little words, so I can't really put him in there,
Ooh, here's one that you probably aren't going to pick, but one of my favorite movie assassins of all time is in the movie 3 Days of the Condor, played by Max von Sydow.
I have no idea.
Okay, well, this man has a code that he follows, and there's a scene late in the movie where he's talking to Robert Redford's character. Like, basically he was assigned to kill him, and then Robert Redford basically stumbles upon him, and they just start having a conversation, and basically Max von Sydow lays out to him how he will be killed eventually. Like, you won't see it coming. It'll just be a quiet day, a regular day. And, this guy's just telling him how it's going to happen. They're just talking. I don't know. I just love that. Like, the guy's doing this dirty job, and he's just like, you got to take the emotion out of it. It's a job. And I'm just like, the way I'm listening to it, I mean, this is a movie from the 1970s, and I love it. I think that's Max von Sydow's best performance, and it's just so subtle. I love it. I'm sorry. Well, you should watch 3 Days of the Condor. Right up there in my Kino Lorber collection. But that was a great question. Tony the Lone Rider Smith, thank you so much, buddy. We really do appreciate that. Keep those questions coming. I'm going to kick it over to myself. Just want to give you guys a quick update on this show. Faith will be popping in here and there, but there will be some weeks that she will miss just because of scheduling things. And so instead of always expecting Faith on the show, maybe she'll be on like once or twice a month. It's just too hard for us to always get together, and then the editing process, it takes so long. So, if I can get in some time and, film and Faith's not home, I'm going to take advantage of that, because it's just, we're always running up to the, basically down to the last second getting this show out. And I don't want to do that to you guys, so I don't want to do it to Faith. So she'll be on when she can, when we can schedule it. And that's all.
Yeah, and I enjoy it, but with your new job, your days off are totally different now, and I don't want to do this at 7 o'clock at night. I'm sorry. I come home from work and do whatever house things I want to do. I just want to hang out, and I just want to enjoy my time home. I don't get much. I get maybe 2 hours, so I want to enjoy that. So if you can't do it on my schedule, then we'll see you next week.
I get that. But you'll always have me, and I just love to talk, so I will never shut up.
I don't know if that's good, but
they love me. I hope you guys love me. Or at least they tolerate me.
we're here for the faith.
All right, guys, let's finish up the questions with me.
And our first solo question this week is from our friend 021OM6, and they said, this is a bit of a different question for you guys. I know your favorite movie is The Terminator, and the topic of the day is AI. So what's your thoughts on AI in our future? Are you more inclined to a doom and gloom outlook, like the Terminator movies and the machines will take over, or a more positive outlook? Well, actually, I'm more mixed on it. I would say I'm definitely more negative on artificial intelligence. I do not like it being used in Hollywood. That's one thing I've actually complained about in the past. I just don't want that anywhere near that, because I just know that that's just going to be a money saver for the studios, and it will never actually be used for good. And that's the thing. AI can be used for good in certain situations. It's just like when the internet first came around. Most people only thought about the good of the internet, and that they didn't think about the bad of the internet. And as we know, in 2024, the internet is probably 50% good and 50% bad. Back then, the outlook was
this is only going to be a good thing for us. And the thing is, we cannot go backwards. So once something is created, it's created. You know, we cannot really ban it and pretend it didn't happen. No, that's it. We can only move forward. We cannot move backwards. So now that artificial intelligence is here, the only thing we can do is just like reel it in and only try and use it for what it's good for. And that's really it, because artificial intelligence does serve a purpose. It's just that we will overuse it. It will replace people's jobs. And if you let the billionaires control everything, they will replace a human being with an artificial intelligence if they want to. And believe me, they want to. So I don't really have the most positive outlook on it, because I don't trust the people that are handling artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, if you want to use it, you know, I've used it in the past for cover letters when I'm looking for a job, mainly because I don't have enough time to write a cover letter for each and every single job application that I submit a resume for, you know? I don't have that kind of time, and honestly, artificial intelligence is being used by companies to filter out certain people, and they just eliminate people without actually interviewing them nowadays, and just by keywords in a resume. So I can't write a cover letter while submitting 10 resumes a day to jobs, because I just don't have that kind of time. I still work a regular job. I do YouTube, so I have used artificial intelligence to write cover letters, and then I'll scan it and fix it afterwards, and honestly, it comes out pretty good. So I would be a hypocrite to say I've never used AI in my entire life, because I have for that reason in the past, and I get recommendations all the time and ads all the time for artificial intelligence that will improve your editing and, you know, get your life back. I don't even know what those companies were, and you know what? That's something I will not do. I won't take it out of a creative person's hands, and that's why it bothers me when it comes to Hollywood. I just know that they're going to use it for bad, and they're not going to use it for good, and that's really what bothers me. So we do have to reel that in. We have to definitely put safeguards up to make sure that greed doesn't get ahead of this, and believe me, that is the thing that we have to worry about most, because it just comes down to money, with just like everything else nowadays, and it's really unfortunate. So we have to, as a society, make sure that it doesn't go that far. Once artificial intelligence in Hollywood is being talked about bringing people back from the dead, and we did it with the de-aging technology. We did it with Peter Cushing's and Carrie Fisher in Rogue One, and it's been done other times, and now they're saying that want everybody to, that's why there was the writer's strike last year, and that's why there was also the SAG strike last year, for that exact reason, for artificial intelligence, because we just know if it goes too far, it's going to be a really bad thing. But like I said, it can be used with good. We just have to put safeguards around it, and I'm very worried that we can't handle that, but we can't get rid of it. So let's just hope for the best and prepare for the worst. Unfortunately, like he said, my favorite movie of all time is The Terminator, and that movie told us a very long time ago that artificial intelligence is a bad thing. And way before that, in 1968, they told us in 2001, A Space Odyssey, HAL 9000, maybe he had the best of intentions. Unfortunately, there was a bit of a bug in there, and that cost people their lives. And this is the thing, we cannot prepare for that, because we are not AIs ourselves, and if they end up becoming smarter than humans, yada yada yada. I can go on and on about this all day. Just watch The Terminator, and you can just look right there for the bad. So anyway, that was a great question. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And this is from Kevin Kruger, and he wrote, what movies will you never look at the same again after learning about disturbing things that went on behind the scenes? Well, actually, you know, I've always said you can enjoy the art without actually enjoying the artist, or appreciating the art and appreciating the artist. Like, one of my favorite films of all time is directed by Roman Polanski, Chinatown. Roman Polanski, from all accounts, is not a very good person. He did something absolutely horrible. Now, there have been like conflicting information that's come out over the last few years. Again, I'm not going to get into that, but I watch Chinatown every single year at least once. It's one of my favorite films of all time, but it's directed by Roman Polanski, but it does not affect the way I watch that movie. And I have a lot of that. Like Kevin Spacey, again, another one that's persona non grata. I still love Seven. I'm going to watch Seven. I'm going to watch The Usual Suspects. I'm going to watch Glenn Ross. He's all over that movie. And seeing him, I don't think of his personal life and everything he's done. I just think of the character he's playing, which I guess is a sign of a good actor. But then there's also Woody Allen, who I actually will not watch any of his movies, mainly because he ends up starring in a lot of his movies. I wasn't a Woody Allen fan before all this information about him actually came out, so it was easier for me to say I'm just never going to watch one of his movies, because I'm going to go into it already knowing the kind of person he is. Whereas other people, I was already watching the movies, and it would just be me readjusting to those films. And, you know, like Kevin said, never look at the movie the same way again. So I haven't really run into that. It's just that with Woody Allen, I've only actually watched a couple Woody Allen movies, and they do make me uncomfortable looking at Woody Allen. So it really can go either way. I guess it really does depend on the actual artist doing it. Some can take me out of it, while other ones I have no problem overlooking it. So I'd be a hypocrite to say one or the other. I would just have to say it comes down to who the person is and what they did. And I guess everyone has different standards, but I won't watch a Woody Allen movie, but I'm still gonna watch Seven. So 6 in one hand, a half a dozen in the other. But that was a great question, Kevin. Thank you so much, buddy. The next one is from Snowloved, and they wrote, one of your favorite biopics besides Oppenheimer. Well, I've talked about it in the past. My favorite biopic film of all time is Malcolm X, the 1992 Spike Lee joint starring Denzel Washington. I don't think there's ever been a better biopic than that film of all time. Now, is it biopic or is it biopic? I don't know. I've heard it go both ways. I'm probably saying it wrong either way, like I do a lot of words. But, there's so many great biopics out there. I was talking about them a couple weeks ago, gave you guys some of my favorites. Walk the Line is a great one. They've kind of become very formulaic, but back in the mid-2000s, Ray, Walk the Line, that formula was kind of first created. They're still doing it nowadays. I kind of felt like this kind of dragged down Bob Marley's film, Bob Marley One Love. I felt like it kind of got dragged down because it was following that formula, even though I still really enjoyed that movie. It's just that biopics have kind of learned to follow a very similar formula, while other ones have done a great job, and I think Malcolm X is still the best of them. Oppenheimer is probably the best recent addition to the biopics. I mean, it also concentrates really on one main storyline, and we don't really have to go too much into the younger days. We're really talking about the Trinity test in that one, the Manhattan Project, and then really having it told to us through these trials. So they got very creative with Oppenheimer instead of following a very similar formula, although people will argue that Christopher Nolan made that movie following his own formula. Either way, I personally think that Oppenheimer is a masterpiece and is one of the best films to come out in the last 10 years. But if you've never seen Malcolm X, that movie is just as good, if not better. Malcolm X is another one of my favorite films of all time, and I just think that Spike Lee is the only person that can make a movie like that, and you just cast the perfect person to play Malcolm X and Denzel Washington. And if you've never seen Malcolm X, it's got a great Criterion 4K Blu-ray release. I've reviewed it here on the channel, but I can always recommend to anyone Malcolm X. So this is a little bit embarrassing. I either got this email to me or it was from Instagram. I'm not too sure who sent this to me. It might have been Rogue1677. I'm not 100% sure. I believe it was, but I cut off the name when I put this picture in my phone, and I don't know 100% sure. If you sent this question, let me know who you are and let me apologize to you right away. I have a question for your Let's Talk episodes. What movie shot in color do you think would look better in black and white? And what movie shot in black and white do you think would look better in color? If not look better, you could say which would you like to see because you think it would look good. We have actually seen movies get released both in black and white and color by design. Movies like The Mist, directed by Frank Darabont. He actually wanted that movie to be released in black and white, but the studio said no because they didn't think anyone would come out to the theaters to see a black and white film. They're not wrong on that. There is still a stigma around black and white films to this very day. People will not go back and watch classic films. They'll just write them all off because they're in black and white. The studio was honestly probably right about that, but it doesn't make them wrong for making him release a movie in color. Although The Mist does look great in color, but I think it actually might look better in black and white. It was kind of designed and lit to look like it was supposed to be shot in black and white, so when they did the black and white transfer for its home media release, it does look fantastic. And it's very similar with Logan. It was kind of lit in a way where it would look great on black and white, and when it came to home media, I have the 4K Blu-ray, they packed it in with the black and white version, and it's the same thing now with Godzilla -1. They'll release it in color, and then they'll release it in Godzilla -1 minus color, and we'll get the black and white version. Now, we can probably do that with every film, but some would just look absolutely atrocious if the lighting is not correct. People think that black and white back in the day, yes, in the early days, that was all we had. But then, after that, it just became a choice to shoot a movie in black and white, to the point that the Academy Awards even had, now this is a very short period of time, like Best Black and White Cinematography and Best Color Cinematography, kind of at the era where, it was like probably 50-50, where the studios were releasing films in color and releasing films in black and white. So they did that for a short time at the Academy Awards. So eventually, we just ended up with Best Cinematography. What movie do I think would look great in black and white that's only been released in color? And again, movies back in the 80s, Ted Turner and Turner Films, that son of a bitch WCW owner that he is, was releasing movies in color that were only shot on black and white. And one of the films that they chose to do is It's a Wonderful Life, which a lot of people consider sacrilege to put that movie in color. Well, I actually like the color version, as crazy as that is. It doesn't look like a 1980s film in color. I think they actually did a good job coloring it to make it look like it was released in the 1940s with color. So I still think it's a great looking color movie. The black and white film is the only one that's on 4K. So if you want to watch the Blu-ray version, that's the only version that's in color, which does come in the 4K Blu-ray. But actually, I go back and forth, and every year, usually I'll watch either the black and white version, and then the next year I watch the color version, and then some years, like last year, I watched both versions. So again, I'd be a hypocrite and I'd be lying to you guys if I said that there wasn't certain movies like that have been colorized that I have enjoyed, which a lot of people consider to be sacrilege, but I still kind of like it, so I'm not going to lie to you guys. So what's a movie that I would actually like to see in black and white that's been released in color? I honestly could see 1989's Batman being one. You know, Tim Burton has released Ed Wood in beautiful black and white, and that's a movie, Ed Wood, I would have actually liked to see in color. So funny enough, both Tim Burton movies, I would actually love to see Batman 1989 in black and white. I think it would have worked just fine. The score itself, the way they shot that movie, it feels like a 1940s, 1950s gangster movie. It doesn't feel like it's in any period of time. You know, the gunfire sounds like it's like 30s, 40s gangster stuff, while the cars still look like 1980s Chevy Impalas. You know, they don't look like anything special. You know, Gotham City, we don't know where the hell it is. It's just this big gothic city, but you could just see that in black and white. You could just see that looking like a Universal Monsters film. And then Ed Wood, yes, we put it in black and white because that was the era that the Universal Monster films were coming out, but I would be interested to see that in color. We've kind of always just kept that era looking black and white. We've never colorized that. I'd be interested to see what those colors did look like, and I think Ed Wood is the perfect place to show us. So that was a great question, whoever sent it to me. Again, I am so sorry. I'm an idiot. I cut it off when I cropped the photo, and I deleted the original one because, again, I just assumed I wouldn't need it, and then I was looking for it today. Ugh, I'm embarrassed. All right, moving on. And here's another great question, and this one is from By His Stripes. What is a classic 70s/80s movie you'd like to see remade versus one you think should never be touched again? Well, there's plenty of 70s and 80s movies I think should never be remade or touched again, including the first two Godfather films from the 1970s. I don't think you touch those movies, and speaking of Francis Ford Coppola, I don't think you touch Apocalypse Now. I don't think anybody will touch Apocalypse Now, so I don't think we have to worry about that. 3 Days of the Condor, that's another one that's an absolute masterpiece. But there are plenty of 80s movies that I still love to this very day, and I just know they're going to get remade one of these days, like my favorite film of all time, The Terminator. That's inevitable. I will not be happy, though. That's something I'll be disappointed that they'll be remaking, but that's inevitable. Probably Back to the Future is another one that's inevitable. I do not think they'll ever go near E.T., and I pray to whatever God that we never get E.T. remade, because again, that's a 1980s masterpiece that I don't think has any business in today's world. I just feel like Aliens and Friendly Aliens, you know, we had that and Alf. I guess Friendly Aliens were just a thing in the 1980s, while in the 1970s, Scary Aliens, but in the 1980s, Friendly Aliens. Then again, another film that I don't think should ever be remade, even though it probably could benefit from some new effects, but I don't think you touch the film itself, and that is Close Encounters with the Third Kind. I think that movie's already a 10 out of 10 perfect film. You don't touch that movie. But it's very hard for me to pick a movie I want to see remade. I don't really like the idea of remakes. I feel like, again, that's just not being original. Remakes happen all the time in the film industry. It's pretty much just a regular thing at this point. In the 2010s, they were just on a roll. They would not stop remaking movies. They wouldn't stop. I mean, music's a whole nother thing of remaking songs or just using, you know, people aren't original anymore is the problem. And you could also argue that we've kind of turned over every stone. I don't think that's true. It's just, you know, it might be a little bit more difficult nowadays to find a jumping off point, but still, stop remaking stuff. So I've never loved the idea of a remake, so it's really hard for me to pick a movie from the 1970s and 1980s I would actually like to see a remake of. I'm more inclined to just leave movies alone. I mean, if there was a great idea that you want to see made today into another film, like, you know, there's plenty of movies throughout the 1970s and 80s that were like silly, that just kind of came and went, that weren't great. They did remake Bad News Bears. That would have been one I would say like would be great for the modern era, and the remake is pretty decent, but I really don't know. I really can't pick one, to be completely honest with you, because it kind of just goes against my personal feelings of what a remake is, and that's just, I don't like them. I don't think there's any reason to do them. But I guess superhero movies, you can always keep remaking them. We're going to get another Superman remake. So, you know, pick a superhero. I guess I wouldn't mind seeing another new Batman in the future or another new Superman in the future. I love seeing other people's spins on those characters. Comic books can always be rebooted, but everything else, I just say leave them alone. And that's honestly how I feel about that. That was a great question, though. I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. And the next one is from Rogue1677, putting me to work. And he wrote, one of the best remakes remastered Blu-rays you've seen? And actually, I have a great answer for this. And that is this. Independence Day Blu-ray. I have never upgraded to 4K Blu-ray for Independence Day, despite the fact there is a 4K Blu-ray for this, because I've actually always thought that this Blu-ray is fantastic. I've always really enjoyed it. And the 4K Blu-ray is also a very early 4K Blu-ray, so I don't think that gap is that far. And actually, Matt, who used to work with me here on the channel, he bought the 4K Blu-ray, and he did a comparison himself, and he said, yeah, the Blu-ray is just a fantastic Blu-ray, and the 4K Blu-ray would definitely be on the low end of a 4K Blu-ray. So that gap is really close, and it's probably a little bit noticeable, but I really do think that this Blu-ray is fantastic, and this is one, if you have it, I don't see any reason to upgrade it, because it's really the best you can get at this point, and especially for Blu-rays. If you needed to be sold on how good a Blu-ray could possibly be, even though the Criterion Collection is filled with great Blu-rays, this Independence Day Blu-ray from 20th Century Fox is a really good one, and I could definitely recommend it. So if you have this one sitting on your shelf, maybe even with this beautiful slipcover on it, it's actually a very solid Blu-ray, and I personally can't recommend the 4K because I haven't seen it, but I could definitely recommend this Blu-ray. And the next question is from our producer, Mr. Smelly Potato, and he wrote, what are some of your favorite pieces in your physical media collection? Well, I pulled some out. First one is my Columbia Classics Volume 1 collection. I haven't gotten Volume 4 yet, despite the fact I really want it, but I can't afford it at the moment. But Volume 1, when it first came out, the excitement I felt for this was actually really crazy. I couldn't wait to see these movies on 4K Blu-ray. I got it on a Friday, and I mean, again, these are individually packed in here. This is a magnetic case. They got their own slip covers on them. The films that are in there are fantastic. The first one is still the best one. I mean, that's where we got Lawrence of Arabia and Gandhi on 4K Blu-ray, both of them having to be spread across 2 discs. And I mean, they're 2 of the greatest epics of all time, in my opinion. I know I'm a little bit higher on Gandhi than other people, but they also put Jerry Maguire on 4K Blu-ray, which is, it's not the greatest 4K Blu-ray, but A League of Their Own, one of my favorite baseball films of all time. That's always competing with Major League for #1 for me. I love A League of Their Own, and that's on 4K Blu-ray in there. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is in there. So overall, I just think that that is still the best collection, and the packaging is amazing. And another one, I'm not going to open this up, but this 4K Blu-ray for The Frighteners from Turbine Studios, 6-disc set. This was a huge recommendation from Frank over at Frank's Media Reviews, our channel director. There's actually a review for this here on the channel. One of my favorite pieces in my collection. I absolutely love this 4K Blu-ray. If it ever comes back into stock, it might be in stock right now, who knows, but if it ever does, this is one of the best 4K Blu-rays out there, even as far as the transfer goes. The 4-hour documentary that's on here as well is fantastic. If you're one of those people who loves behind the scenes, you're not going to do better than this one. You're not going to do better than the packaging for this one, and the fact all the love and care that was put into this transfer is fantastic. And all the Blu-rays in here are region free as well, so it's a can't miss, and you definitely will love it. And if you're a fan of The Frighteners, you'll love it. And if you haven't seen The Frighteners, man, you're in for a treat, and you should definitely check out this one. The Arrow video release for True Romance. This is one of my favorite movies ever. I was between this and RoboCop. Which Arrow video 4K was I going to show off here? The reason why this one gets the nod, though, is because inside of this is also a great steelbook. You can't do better than that. You get the classic Arrow video hard case on the outside with the reading material, with the poster, and you also get a steelbook on the inside. And they released a regular version of this with the interior version not being a steelbook, just being a standard release, and that got different artwork. So if you were a fan of True Romance, maybe you picked up both versions. I'm too poor to do something like that. I sure wish I could have. True Romance is a great film, but their release of RoboCop is another one that I love in my collection. And then, of course, I've talked about in the past, Vinegar Syndrome's release of Roadhouse. This is still the best thing that they've ever put out. First of all, it's in their great collector's cases, you know, the ones that flip out. You get the little tab here, so you drop everything out, and then on the inside you have it individually wrapped. I'm not going to open it up because I don't got enough time to put it all back together again, but the 4K transfer that's inside here, the visuals are a 10 out of 10. The audio was great. You get great commentary tracks. You get Kevin Smith doing a commentary track on here. This is what I always run back to, always puts a smile on my face, and it's always going to be a 10 out of 10. And then last on the list is the Point Break Steelbook. This is one of my recent editions from December of last year, and this is my favorite steelbook of all time. Obviously, a lot of that is biased, mainly because I absolutely love Point Break, so of course I'm going to love this 4K steelbook. And again, the camera just doesn't do it justice. You have to see this in person with the changing colors, the difference between the flat background and the glossy finish. It really is special, and I absolutely love this 4K steelbook. So those would be my favorite pieces of my collection, Mr. Smelly Potato. Thank you so much. And the next question is from, I'm going to guess this is trying to say Sprazy110. Besides sales pricing, is there anything Kino Lorber does better than other boutique labels? I find their packaging so boring, and they rarely commission new special features. You guys might know I'm pretty high on Kino Lorber as it is. I've always been a big fan of them, and I think their big selling point is very similar to Criterion, where they keep a lot of classic films alive, like the release of The Night of the Hunter last year. I thought was one of the best looking 4K Blu-rays. Out of Sight, only they released it. Face Off. But I do see what you're saying about their packaging. They do put out very standard packaging. All their stuff looks uniform, so the disc design, the exterior packaging, they just put the movie poster on it. Then the side of it just has the Kino Lorber logo, the name of the film, it's stylized font. The back of the box is always with black and silver. I understand completely what you're saying. It is very boring, but for me personally, I do kind of like it because on my shelf, I like that I could always look around and I know where Kino Lorber is. I can always just find my Kino Lorber section, and I like how they look lined up next to each other. And I completely understand that many people might not like it, and I get a little bothered by it too because I do feel like, it can be a little bit boring at times. It'd be cool to see them like whip out a steelbook one of these days. But then, of course, they would be going against what they've always done, and that might throw some people off too because I do like the fact that all my Kino Lorbers look very nice and uniform on my shelf, but I do understand completely what you're saying. And then I also understand about the extras because, yeah, they released a Kindergarten Cop earlier this year that had nothing on it, and that just means they don't ever get new featurettes. They never go out of their way, like you said, to commission for new extras, and that is a little bit upsetting, although they do put definitely a lot of TLC into their visual transfers. The audio, I can see what you're saying. I do feel like Kino Lorber is definitely like middle of the pack, but I do appreciate them for really keeping classic films alive and bringing certain films to the 4K Blu-ray format that I can see a lot of other studios not taking a risk on, like Mystery Man or The Taking of Pelham 123. So I think that Kino Lorber does have their own certain space, but I also don't think that they're very special or will stand out in the crowd. But some people do appreciate them, and I do, and I am one of those people. But that is a great question. Thank you so much. And he also had another question. It was, how would you sell your entire collection for? I'm guessing you're saying, how much would I sell my entire collection for? And honestly, I could probably get a lot of money for it. I've never thought about it, and I would probably never do that because the only thing I do with my free money now, and it's not a lot, is buy more movies. So why would I ever sell it? That's the whole thing. The only reason I could ever see myself selling anything from my collection is if I ever got so desperate, but that would really have to be the last thing to go. I'd sell my clothes before I actually sold the movie collection. So yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and yeah, I'd probably get a lot for it, but that's not going to fill the physical media collector size hole in my heart, so I don't think I'll ever sell it. But that is a good question. Thank you so much. And that's going to do it here for us on another episode of Let's Talk Physical Media. I really hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on, share this video. If by chance I missed your question this week, please let me know in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to answer that question on next week's show. And if you have any questions for next week's show or any episode of Let's Talk Physical Media, you can leave those in the comment section below, or you can wait for the post that we're going to start putting out now on Tuesdays instead of Wednesdays. I'm going to try and shoot the Sunday shows on Thursday to give myself a little extra time to edit, so I'm not rushing around on Friday and Saturday night. So we'll put the post out on Tuesday, and we'll shoot for filming on Thursday. So make sure you guys get your questions in by then. And if you guys would like to become a channel member, we do have those, but it's always no pressure. We have a Friends of the Channel tier. We have a Producers tier. That's where you're going to find John Doe Juggalo, Jason Martin, and Mr. Smelly Potato. We also have a Directors tier where you're going to find Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews. But if you got no money to throw our way, don't you guys worry about it. We just appreciate you checking out this video. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure you guys get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.